everybody. Welcome to the world's greatest Bronze Age Spider-Man podcast. Here comes the Spider-Cast. I'm your co-host, Mike L. And as always, I'm joined by...
Joshua Mervell. Today we're going to be taking a look at Spidey comics from February of 1988.
1988? Yeah, you're right. I thought it was 87, but I was wrong. Yeah, and this is... I had these all when I was a kid, so it's very important to me. We are joined this week by G.I. Jolie.
I had prepared something to say for when you introduced me by name, and I totally forgot what that was. So
that's okay. We have hundreds of episodes to go. You can save it for one of those other ones. Also joining us, Lex Luthor.
I am also here, and maybe it's the high school bully in me, but as soon as Mike was like, these are important to me, I was like, I'm going to rip them apart. Can't wait.
Becca's also frazzled because she just saw my camouflage shorts. Anyway, sorry about that, Becca.
I couldn't even see them. There was nothing on the screen.
Anyway, also, special guest this week, returning for the third or fourth time, Erica Rock. Thanks for joining us, Erica.
Thank you for having me.
Woo! Yeah, we'll have you back many, many more times after this, too. It doesn't matter if you can't figure out Skype. It doesn't matter if you can't figure out anything. Okay? We're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're here for you.
Thanks.
All right, so anyway.
I guess we're going to start off with
Yeah,
Web.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
like I said, I want to remind everyone, I had these all as a kid. I've read them 1,000 times. Go ahead, Josh.
So this first piece of absolute trash garbage is just the worst thing I've ever read in my entire life.
Yeah, are you like asking us to tread lightly or...
No, I'm just saying, you know.
Oh, okay.
Watch out for my feelings.
it is a threat.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so Web of Spider-Man number 35. This one's the special tribute to teenagers issue. That's right, all you teens out there, buckle in because you're going to love this issue.
Yes.
Even though this issue was released in February, we catch up with Spider-Man in the middle of October as he is late for his first day on his new temporary job. He's filling in at his old high school as a science teacher as a favor to his old principal. So he's swinging in, and as this is happening, we see this dude, I guess, in a cab, and the cab is about to run into traffic while an ambulance is driving by real fast. So he webs up the cab and makes it turn a corner, and they nearly miss the accident. So I don't know who this dude is. Roland Rayburn.
Well, that's okay because we're going to find out in a future issue because Gerry Conway is laying down the subplots.
Okay, well, Roland Rayburn makes an appearance, everyone.
First appearance of Roland Rayburn.
Oh, you know
Super
what?
helpful for someone who
he is.
hasn't read any of them.
Yeah, I won't say who it is, but I just Googled him and now I know. But this is how Gerry Conway does it. He's laying out 5 subplots in this issue. But anyway, back to the story.
Okay, so we're at Midtown High now, and Peter Parker's waving his fist as a cloud as he sees his quiet, moderate, conservative, middle-class neighborhood has turned into... that's a direct quote, by the way. Has turned into a school and a town for punks and rock stars who have mohawks and dyed spiky hair and wear short shorts. So... Spidey's walking up to the school and he sees this dude getting bullied. His name is Simon, I think, or Gerry. What's his name? Jake?
Steve Petty.
Steve Petty. That's right. Steve Petty. So Peter Parker kind of breaks up the fight. He realizes that this dude is a lot like him, and the other guy is a lot like Flash. So he kind of breaks up the fight. This dude starts nerding out that, oh my god, it's Peter Parker, the guy who won the science fair, whatever, who cares? So he realizes that maybe he should talk to this dude because he's seeing him go down the same path that he had when he was in high school, and he wants to try and make this kid's high school experience the best it can be and not be as miserable, so he can tell him to go make friends and just be a normal kid. So he tells him we'll meet up for lunch. He goes into his classroom, and Peter makes a fool of himself in front of the class in the first encounter. We cut over to somewhere in South America. We see this dude who is like some sort of police officer, not police officer, but like some sort of like militia guy. He rolls up into this town looking for a boy. So he rolls up to the church and he bangs on the door, asks the priest for him. He says, no, sorry, he's under the protection of the church. He's got sanctuary. He punches the priest. He tells his men to go in there and search for the boy, brings him out, and he kills him in cold blood. And then he turns around and says to kill the rest of the town. We cut back to New York. Peter, the first period is done, so Peter's on his lunch, and he meets up with the nerd. I already forget his name. Steve Petty. Brings him to his like science lab that he built in the basement, and Peter's wondering where he got all of like the money and the funding to get all of these like super expensive electronics. And it turns out that his dad works for this high-tech company called ICM, and he just like inherited a bunch of like old surplus technology that's not being used anymore. And we kind of see Petty like close a door, and it turns out that it's like, it looks like some sort of like robot. So it's kind of like a hint for later on. We see Peter decides he wants to kind of tell Petty about his experience in high school and how he wished he had made friends, and he's trying to encourage him. Petty gets all upset and storms off and says, you don't understand, blah, 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 blah. He goes to the cafeteria and he bumps into that bully again, and he hits him, knocks his glasses on the ground, they break. Peter once again breaks up the fight, and he goes back to his classroom. And as Peter's going back to the lab to kind of console Petty, we see that giant robot fly out of the door and knock Peter onto the ground. And we learn that Petty is controlling him via remote control. So the robot smashes outside and he starts whipping around the bully and stuff. And then Peter comes and saves the day. He starts beating up the robot, and he does a couple of like cool things to fight the robot or whatever. It's a pretty interesting fight. He is able to stop it by short-circuiting it through like tricking the robot into like punching an electrical outlet in the elevator shaft. We cut back to South America. We see another town is being raided as we catch up with that general guy, and he is like teaming up now with the military, and it turns out that they want to give him some sort of like super soldier serum and turn him into the next tarantula, which is pretty interesting. A returning Spider-Man villain in a new form. And Peter Parker goes back to the lab after defeating the robot, trying to find Steve, and he's nowhere to be found. That's where that one ends.
Well, first I'll just start by saying this is the first issue by Gerry Conway, who goes on to write Web and Spectacular for the next several years. I'm not sure if you guys know, but Gerry Conway wrote the famous Death of Gwen Stacy storyline. He took over Amazing Spider-Man after Stan Lee when he was only 19 years old. I believe he's written more Spider-Man comics than anyone in history. So this is kind of the beginning of his third run on Spider-Man. So again, this is when I really was, getting into Spider-Man as a kid. So I love this issue. There's so much I love about it. I love the multi-plotting. I love the, being back in high school. I love the villain. I love the cover tribute to Amazing Spider-Man number 8. Because if you Google Amazing Spider-Man number 8, it's the same cover except with his original costume, and it's the living brain and all that stuff. So I have a lot of good things to say about this one. But Erica, since you're a guest, I'd like you to go first and tell us what your impression was of Tribute to Teenagers.
Okay. So I liked I do like the cover, and then the very first page. But no, just the way that it looks neat. No. And the way he's like swinging by the bridge and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I like that that he goes back to school as the part-time teacher, which I can never follow because I don't read any of this. His he always has many jobs. It's like he never has the same job, other than the photography. I was really confused by the thing in South America. I didn't understand what that had anything to do with the rest of the story. So had that been taken out, it would have made the comic complete for me. Sure. I don't know, is that like hinting at another... Is it hinting at another one that's to come?
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it hard for me, because I don't read. I just join and read the ones you tell me to read, and then I'm like, I don't know what's happening. But I like the colors. I like the artwork, and this one was better than the last one that I had to read.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you can talk more in a minute, but G.I. Julie, you've met Gerry Conway, I believe, right? I think you were there for the little Q&A that we filmed. You've definitely seen it, I hope. But what was your impression of this issue of Web of Spider-Man?
I'm just as confused as Erica is. I'm not confused, but like annoyed that they cut in. It wasn't like last issue where they cut in and like... played it for laughs, like we cut away to the moon, like that was funny.
Yeah.
But like we cut to Bolivia or wherever they are, and like we
just murdering people.
Yeah,
I think the big difference though between this one and last is that cutting to the moon like had a part in the story.
Yeah,
like they were on the moon.
Yeah.
Where this one feels a little weird because it has nothing to do with like the main story that's going on. Like it's not connected at all. And I think it'd be fine as like a little epilogue or something, like teasing a building story that's happening in the background. But like the cut in the middle seems very strange.
Yeah, like in current comics, they usually have like a backup story. It would have been fine as a backup story. If I would have read this as a backup story, it would have been like less annoying to have the main story been broken up. Now, let's talk about and discuss the main story.
Okay.
Peter Parker, does everyone go through this whole, like, I've been out of high school for 6 years. I am an 82-year-old man. Like, get a grip, Peter. Also, he does something in the story that really drives me nuts and would end half of the movies I watch if they would have, if everyone's problem can be solved by just communicating what you actually mean when you're doing stuff. And it's like, Peter, that's great. You now go to punk rock high, like you now teach at punk rock high school. But if you just told Stephen Petty that you see yourself in him and your current best friend is this asshole that like picks on you. Like if you just told him what you mean by like, go and make friends, see the good in these people, stop being so petty, then I think he would understand your messaging. But instead, he's just content shaking his fists. Also, was he... Okay. Do you know what? Time travel is so weird, but he was in high school in the 40s, right?
60s. 50s?
Okay, 60s. So now, 6 years later is the 80s?
Yeah, that's how comic books work, though, right?
I was going to say, is there any...
It's a hard...
What's that?
It's a hard jump.
I don't know. I mean, I read it, like I said, when I was like 12, and I was like, whatevs.
Fine.
What?
I believe it.
Yeah, because like he flashes back. He's like, this scene is familiar. Oh, that's right. Because I'm Petty and that guy is Flash. And Flash is wearing like a Letterman's jacket and giving some girl his like promise, like his ring.
Mm.
Oh,
like,
yeah, you're right.
I think
it was too much. Too far of a stretch.
Okay. Josh Mervell, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was just kind of all right. I don't think there was much special in this one. I like the idea of him going back to his high school and being like a substitute science teacher. That's great. Him finding somebody that is like super similar to himself. Like they even draw him essentially as original, like first appearance Peter. Like he looks almost exactly like that. So like in panels, it almost looks like he's talking to his past self. But I think it just kind of like falls flat a little bit. I just feel like there's not enough like substance to it. I don't know how else to describe it. I just feel like the new characters that they introduce are pretty weak. This, like Jolie was saying, like he kind of blows up for seemingly no reason. Like this is like his idol. The guy that he looks up to, the guy who wants to be in high school, and he says like one thing and he blows up and leaves. So yeah, it's a little strange. And then like he's got a robot, like a killer robot in the school somehow that the school just let him bring in.
It's down in his lair
downstairs. Yeah, into his secret downstairs science lab. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. It's a little strange. I feel also too like the way that they interpreted like the punk teenagers is like
stereotypical,
so cartoonish. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure nobody has ever looked like this one dude
in the
with
80s in Toronto
5 years ago.
Okay, yeah. But with like a mohawk, sure. But the one guy is like, he's got only certain patches of hair and they're all spiked in different directions, and then like a weird like dot makeup all the way down his face with like a weird like oval thing. I don't know. It feels
It feels futuristic. Like cyberpunk.
Where is this?
Yeah.
Which guy is that?
I don't have the page numbers, but it's like
I see it. Page 13.
Yeah, when the robot first bursts through the door into the schoolyard, it's just like that's not a real person. Come on. I mean, I'm sure somebody has looked like that before, but it just seems like these are not teenagers. Even like the first page, or the first page where they are, it's like the
like when he gets to the school.
Big long, yeah. It's like these don't look like teenagers at all. It looked like university students. Like they look like they're in their 20s.
You could say that.
The girl's wearing like a leotard and boots.
Yeah,
I guess.
strange.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
They look like Electric Circus in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like they don't look like punks or bad kids, you know? Not what you would consider however far down the hill Peter's high school slid in the 6 years that he's been gone. Like these kids actually look cool to me, and I feel like in that time would have been considered cool looking instead of like a bad element. It's just weird that this is a bad element.
Hey,
Becca,
Lex Luthor.
I did look like this in high school, so and I would have gotten sent home for wearing some of the things that these girls are wearing. But still, I feel like the scene where he like comes up on the school, that just looks like my TikTok For You page at this point of teenagers, right? Like this is what kids look like now. And even when Josh was saying that guy with his makeup, it's like, you are correct. His makeup wouldn't look that good, but it would definitely be that. There's also like, where is it? It's like right before the first like flashback to or flash whatever to the
the guy with
South
the
America.
blue spiky hair and
Yeah,
like the
there's
weird
that guy.
balding
And then-
white hair in the back.
Then like 2 panels above that, there's a guy with spiky hair with a skull on the back of his head, just slap stickered. And I absolutely would have like Prozac glued a patch and then put it on my hair. Like, you don't understand. This is what we did. Whatever was the most ridiculous option, that's what you picked. And then you walked around like that and you thought you were the coolest shit. So it just wouldn't have looked this fashionable, I think, is the problem. Like, these kids look like they are the cream of the crop for high school, which is like TV shows, right? Like it's always shows like what high schoolers want to look like. And then when you go to the reality, it's like your eyeliner's crooked, your hair dye is such a bad job, like it's all that jazz. So yeah, that part doesn't bother me. Actually, none of this really bothered me, except for the fact that I love that this issue is for the teenagers, and then it treats them like idiots the whole time. It's like, this one's for you, kids. Fuck you. You suck, and I hate you.
Good point.
Your problems are stupid and petty, and just go out there and make friends. It's easy, you idiot.
Tricked you.
I love the juxtaposition, though, between Steve and Peter, and like how he's like, yeah, Peter was very angry and introspective, but he didn't lash out at people by making a killer robot. Like, we took a step.
Yeah.
We took a step too far, I think, Steve. And I like that he got it because his daddy works at Nintendo, and he got all this old tech, and he brought it to school instead of keep it at home. I don't know. The stuff with the second tarantula, don't care. I think that would have worked better as Julie said, at the end, or even the beginning of the issue where we introduced him, like as his like two pages of origin story. Like, what are you doing here? At least with what's it called, Roland? I almost said who he is. With Roland, at least like Spider-Man's into that story. It's like, we're introducing this character, and Spider-Man is in the same panel. Like, it's like, okay, so it makes sense. I don't know, I just feel like obviously this is a part 1 of a part 2. Like, we're gonna get the conclusion of Steve Petty's petty crimes in the next one. Yeah, and like, you gave him a supervillain name, so he's obviously not gonna learn from his mistakes, and next issue probably just gonna fix the robot up more. I don't know. There's not a whole lot here. I wish Peter going back to his high school was more. I want to see him walking through the halls and reminiscing and remembering and doing some introspective of like, oh yeah, I was a little shit back then. I should have listened to Aunt May. I should have been friendlier to my friends who I'm friends with now. Like, I know we're all sick of it, but like, flashback to like Uncle Ben, anything to prove that he went to the school, besides a kid saying, oh, you're Peter Parker. It fell a little flat for me. I was like expecting more. Because like, I would literally never go back to my high school. Oh God. But if I did, you'd at least like do a little bit. Oh, I think we.
Yeah, Erica left.
Oh.
You know what's funny is this issue, actually, I was surprised how dense it was. Like, it took me a long time to read it. And as far as the subplots, I do agree, there's no organic way to just jam these subplots in there. However, that was the way a lot of comic books were plotted at that time. Like, they're always trying to set up the next thing, right? So I can agree that it does feel awkward. Like, it's not really part of the main story, so it sticks out like a sore thumb. But if we're just talking about the stuff that's in the high school, I did enjoy it. Like, and I like the fact that it was a reference to an old Spider-Man comic. So I appreciated that. Like, when I read this as a 11-year-old, 12-year-old, I was like, oh, the living brain, that's so cool, you know? And getting the flashbacks to when Peter was in high school gives it the continuity, tying it back to the 60s. So I liked all that. But I do agree, it is a little bit, like, the characters are a little bit, well, very stereotypical. It's almost like Gerry Conway is really good at plotting, but he's not, at least in this issue, the characters feel very stereotypical, cliched, not really like real people. It's like he's got all these different pieces and he's moving them around, but it's more just about moving them around rather than actually getting into their heads and seeing how they would think or talk. So yeah, it's definitely not perfect, but again, it's hard for me to detach myself from it because I read it as a kid so many times and I owned it when it came out. So I do love it, but it's definitely not perfect. So I don't know, I guess, I mean, here's the thing. I guess we could talk about, is there anything else anyone else would like to talk about with this issue? What about the art? I mean, Erica, this is the first time you've probably seen Alex Saviuk's art. What do you think of the art in this one?
Well, I do like it. I like the movement and how it shows him fighting, and the crazy sounds like clack and spacaz and all that stuff, and the color's good, and I like the drawing of it. It's better than some of the other ones I've read for this podcast. No, it's true. I don't know. There is something pleasing about it. I did like that about this. And I like the way that Steve Petty looks. He's kind of vintagey looking, but with a little bit of a mullet.
Just so you guys know, I've just shared in the chat the original cover from Amazing Spider-Man number 8. That's like this issue is a tribute to. So there you can see the original Spidey costume, the living brain. So there you go. That issue takes exactly 3 hours to read because that's how long comics took back in the 60s. So even this comic took me longer to read than average. So maybe they were going for that kind of 60s vibe. But anyway, I love it. I can recommend it. Not a masterpiece, but I still think it was good. G.I. Julie, do you recommend this one?
Yeah, it's not terrible. I didn't hate it. But there's just some things that I was confused at the inclusion of. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's it's the first part of a story or of a 2-part story, and you kind of have to read more to understand what they're setting up. So hopefully what they're setting up is good, and my recommendation is not in vain. So.
Well, I will quickly say, when I read this as a kid, the ending felt weird because yes, it is a cliffhanger, but it's not a cliffhanger. So it was is it the end of the story? It says to be continued, but it's not really a cliffhanger. But so yeah, it's kind of an odd ending. But Joshua Mervell, do you recommend this one?
This is a weird middle of the road one for me. I don't necessarily recommend it, but I also don't recommend it. It's kind of it's all right. I'm definitely curious to see what's gonna happen next week. Maybe reading next week will make me change my mind on this one, and I'll recommend this one later. But I feel like it's just it's all right. I thought it was a fine comic.
All right. Lex Luthor.
Yeah, no, it wasn't my favorite, but it was fine. Yeah, I enjoyed my time with it. I like Peter's homage to his original costume. He's got his red turtleneck and blue blazer. That's fun. I mean, maybe don't walk around saying you're Spider-Man, but go off, I guess. Does anyone else think it's weird that his principal asked him to come back, though? I get it's just a plot device or whatever. But
yeah, I find that confusing.
It's a little weird. Steve mentioned that the only award the school ever got was a science award that Peter won.
But he still had Peter's number. I don't know.
I don't know.
It just seems there was no other substitute. There's substitute teachers everywhere, right? I don't know. I was like, okay, I understand it's a setup, but I was like, it seems pretty unrealistic. They're like, oh yeah, this guy used to go here. You can come in for a week.
I'm curious if this is going to be an ongoing thing in the comics for in the next few issues or not, because if not, they could have just been he's there to do a demonstration or something, or to share his experience or something.
Yeah
I do think after the next issue he will never substitute teach again, which is upset.
Becca might be onto something.
Yeah.
Because I would love if Peter was a teacher. I think he'd be great at it. Actually, I think in some more modern comics he does teach classes at the Xavier Institute, right?
Does he really?
I
and some Young Avengers shit.
I was gonna say I think he becomes a professor at one point too.
I think it advised really well, but with Peter teaching younger kids,
it's a good way to age him a little bit, where you can still make him a scientist in school, working in the lab and stuff, without making him a full-on scientist or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know why they decided to make him a wealthy businessman instead of just a professor trying to get tenure, Parker Industries.
Erica, do you recommend this one?
Yeah. The weird insert of the story to come I'm assuming is what that is. Aside, it was a okay story. I think it, like you said, it's not really a cliffhanger because it would have it could stand alone. Does that make sense? But those little weird epilogues and the insert of that other thing kind of made it confusing, but also didn't really make me want to read the end of the story. I'm like, oh, I could have ended there and I was fine with it. So I would recommend it, but I didn't love it.
All right, well, don't worry. Gerry Conway only writes the next 7 years worth of Spider-Man comics. Okay, so now we're going to jump over to...
It'll get better.
Yeah, we'll see. Amazing Spider-Man 297 and Lex Luthor. You're going to tell us what this one's about.
I am. So we start off with, I guess, another homage cover. I guess this one's an homage kind of to Amazing 53.
Is it? I didn't know that.
That's what Wikipedia says.
Oh.
I am just reiterating facts that I have just currently read. And I looked at them both.
All are.
And I guess I can kind of see it. He's fighting Doc Ock on both, but
I didn't realize that. Holy crap.
it's a little different. The posing is different.
Okay.
But anyway, so yeah, start off with that. And the last issue of Amazing, we ended off with Peter believing that he did not need to ever worry about Doc Ock again. And in this issue, we find that to be untrue. So we start the issue off. Peter has just recently remade his web shooters, like he was saying he was going to do. Now they're made out of like space age plastics polymers, so that he doesn't have to worry about going overseas and then detecting. They also have a little LED that's a light emitting diode for people who don't know. That was wild to me, right? I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that people wouldn't know that, right?
Know what that
that's
is.
like Dr. Evil's laser beam, right?
Yeah.
So now his web shooters have a blinky light when they're low, which I would really, it took him a long time to get to there. That's really funny to me. So he's testing them out and he's like shooting the distance, and now his spider tracers are also, instead of him just throwing them, he has a little spring-loaded projector so he can shoot them at people or at things that he needs to track. And then it's really funny because he's like testing out his web shooters and he accidentally webs up this guy and his dog in the street, then just leaves him there. So he swings home, and on his way home, Aunt May and Mary Jane's Aunt Anna show up, surprise visit, and they just let themselves in. It's a newlyweds apartment, just come in. It's fine. And so Peter's like jumps in the bathroom. He's like, oh shit, Aunt May. So he jumps in the shower. She's like, oh, I was in the shower, blah, blah, blah. Comes out. They take him out to dinner. Fun for him. We switch over to the New Jersey, and looks like these guys are arguing with somebody about letting them borrow their plane and how only the people insured can fly the plane. So Doc Ock's like, nah, and just straight up kills a man, just squishes him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually pretty brutal, so that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing usually isn't too brutal, so that's fun. And then this guy's all shaken up. So we switch back to Peter. He's at the Bugle, and he's looking for money. And even Joy Mercado's like, isn't your wife a super famous, rich supermodel? Why are you worried about money all of a sudden? And he's like, whatever, shut up. And then even Robbie Robertson comes up to him, and he's like, maybe this isn't the job for you. You're always looking for money. And it's like, yeah. It's a job, but whatever. So Peter leaves, pretty defeated, and he hears a scream, and he goes and he saves this group of rich aristocrats from their party after these masked goons are trying to rob them all. And he does a big mess up of it, and he accidentally destroys a priceless painting and gargoyle, and the rich people are not appreciative of him saving them, and they threaten to sue him. And he swings off even more agitated. We cut over to a military lab in Long Island, I guess. And Doc Ock is barging in, breaking through the wall to steal what seems to be a biohazard weapon of some sort. And he easily takes out the goons and steals the weapon, and Peter hears about it on the news later, but not before he watches some fun TV and gets a phone call from Mary Jane. She is still... Is she in Aspen?
Colorado, yeah.
Yeah. Doing a skiing photo shoot, looking great. And she tells Peter how much that she misses him and how lonely she is without him. And Peter's like, man, I've been moping around all day and my hot freaking wife misses me. What is my problem? So even he thinks, he's like, I gotta be crazy. Like, and then of course the news is like, oh, Doc Ock's doing some crazy shenanigans. So he jumps out of the apartment and goes swinging off, tries to punch some information out of some goons until he figures out where Doc Ock's lair is, and it's in one of the World Trade Center buildings, so that's fun. And Doc Ock is sitting with all of his goons in their special little outfits to protect them from the bioweapon that is going to destroy all of New York, because that's Doc Ock's plan from the previous issue. He said in order to defeat Spider-Man, he just has to destroy New York because Spider-Man lives there. And then so Spider-Man crashes through the window, drop kicks Doc Ock, who freezes in place because he's terrified of the sight of him. And Peter is like, hey, stop the helicopter with the big germ bomb. And the guys are like, we can't do that. It only works for, the guy's only going to listen to a code word, and only Doc Ock knows the code word. But Doc Ock is petrified in fear, so Peter's got to figure out something. So he ends up fighting with the tentacles a little bit before he realizes that, oh, well, Doc Ock was terrified when he was beaten by Spider-Man, so maybe if he can defeat Spider-Man, then he will break out of his weird frozen in state fear and be able to call off the end of New York. So that happens. Peter, who is not used to getting beat up, he gets beat up by the arms, and on purpose. He gets beat up on purpose. And Doc Ock defeats him, and he is like, oh, I'm cured now. That's all it took, was defeating Peter. That's how mental illness works. It's as easy as recreating the trauma, but having you come out as the successor. I don't think that's a clinical study, but maybe I could try it. So he defeats him, and then Peter's like, oh, hey, you don't want to, kill all of New York and, all the people who saw you defeat me, right? What's the point of a victory if you kill all the witnesses? And he's like, you know what? You're right, Peter. Spider-Man. And calls it off, and Spidey swings home. And he's covered in bruises, and he grabs a Coke out of the fridge, and he's like, you know what, Peter? Everyone saw you get your ass kicked, and you don't care. You did good today. And he's like, now I'm finally an adult. Not the marriage. Or anything else. This was his moment of adulthood.
This was an odd one. I think this whole Doc Ock storyline is kind of just ill-conceived, for lack of a better term. So I'm kind of just waiting to get through it. So, I mean, there were some moments that I enjoyed, but overall I did not like this one. Joshua Marvell, what did you think?
Yeah, this one was not great. Again, I kind of have the same notes that I did about last issue, in that I wish we would have gotten more about Doc Ock and his fear and kind of more personal look on his personal life. He's got a new costume for some reason. So that's cool, I guess. I don't know. It's weird that MJ is always just missing now.
Gone.
Too.
Yep.
It really feels like they made this rash decision to make them married, and then they didn't know what to do with it afterwards. So they just wrote her out of all of the comics in Amazing so far. Yep. There is some good stuff with MJ in the next issue we're going to talk about, but in this one, it really feels like, they don't know what to do with that character. There's also some weird moments with this guy trying to sue Spider-Man, and it just feels strange. It's an interesting moment. I'm not sure how that fits in to this story. Both moments of
because he says, do you have a friend with a dog, right? He says that the two that threatened to sue him.
Right. Yeah, it's really strange. That moment where like the rich guy says he's going to sue him feels more real, and like that might actually happen.
Yeah, more legitimate.
Right. Maybe it's just a joke and it's fine. But if this like continues and becomes a thing, it's going to be really weird that it's in this like strange second part to Doc Ock being scared of Spidey. Again, maybe it was just a joke calling back to the beginning where he accidentally webbed the guy. But I for some reason that moment felt weird when I was reading it. Like it didn't belong in the story. But maybe that's just me thinking into the future about how it could connect later on.
I don't think it will. I think it's just a reference to that guy
it's
at the
just a
beginning.
joke.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, the guy.
So
who
that's
webs up.
probably just on me then. I think I was like looking for that to be a story point, and it was just like a joke. So that's on me then. But it's really strange. It's a little disappointing that we don't get a little bit more about Doc Ock and what he's been going through, and his like octopus henchman. Even I don't know.
Well, also him beating up random guys on the street to get information on Dr. Octopus. I didn't like that at all. It just felt very forced. Whatever. I mean, here's the thing. Well, whatever. I'll say my piece later, but I just didn't like this issue. Now, the art was by Alex Saviuk again. So in a way I like it, but in a way it kind of gives it this throwback feeling, right? Because Alex Saviuk's style is almost more suited to like the 70s. And so it almost feels like a 70s geared a little bit more towards kids. That's how I felt about this story. It just felt a little bit more childish to me. Right. But Erica, what did you think of this one?
Funny as you say that. I actually liked this one.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
And I think when we do, I think I seem to like this, the Amazing Spider-Man ones the best. I think because I can read them without really knowing what came before or what goes after. And I didn't know why Doc Ock was afraid of Spider-Man, but it was okay for me to read this story. And for some reason, I like Doc Ock, but I liked this story, and I thought it just kind of portrayed how goofy Spider-Man can be. Like when he breaks the painting and the guy yells at him, he's going to get sued. And it's kind of like, he's kind of always fucking up, right?
Yes.
And then like, even with his, like when he's showing off his new web throwers and he can throw a big gob of it and it's like, should have that sound to it. I just thought it was kind of goofy, and to me, Spider-Man often is a little bit silly. And I really thought it was funny, the part where Aunt May and the other aunt just like bust into his apartment, and the one aunt says like, I'm sure he's tired of batching it. Like, what old lady says that?
Yeah, I had to like reread that twice, like batching
I was like,
it.
what?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so just, that was strange. And they're like, still he's getting taken out for dinner because he never has money. And just, it all seemed typical to me of what little I know of Spider-Man. I also was kind of annoyed with really what they did with MJ. It was like she was kind of this weird piece of arm candy that was kind of like, I don't know, I found it, I don't know, have the right words because I didn't write anything down. But when I was reading it, I was like, figure she's a supermodel and whatever, she's off making money. I'm like, it just seemed kind of trite to me. But I liked this one. I got really excited because I also thought the bad guys that were robbing the rich people were maybe going to be, wasn't there an episode where they had, it wasn't like the jogging pant mafia, that's from something else, but there was like,
or Hawkeye, yeah.
Hawkeye,
right.
yeah.
But like there was a group of like henchmen that were in one of the comic books. I couldn't remember what they were called, but I thought that they were back and I got excited about that. You guys don't remember what I'm talking about? I'm terrible.
Was this
the Blue Boys?
No, one of the episodes I read, it was forget it.
Was it when that gang beat up Peter Parker, or no, beat up Nathan or something, and then
I don't know. There was a group. Then Dave told me there is a. I don't know. But I got excited because I thought they were back.
Oh,
Just
Turians?
a bunch of henchmen. Maybe it was in that weird, spacey one. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. But I got excited because I thought they were back.
Oh, okay.
So, and I like the fight scene, and I think I really like Doc Ock. I didn't know. I love how he goes and grabs a tab out of the fridge. Like, when did tab stop being a pop?
Right.
I don't know. And what adult? I'm going to have a tab? That should be a beer if he's really going to be an adult. There, that's my opinion.
Okay. G.I. Jolie, what do you think?
Okay. It's so weird because I remember when I was reading them, I was like, wow, I don't hate these. These are actually not terrible. And then when we recap them on the show, I'm like, no, these were terrible. They're not, well, they weren't terrible. They're just like, they're not the best. But like, excuse me.
Bless you.
It's just thinking about what Erica was saying about Mary Jane, that she's just like become this arm candy that's like distant now. And it made me think about what I used to hate about Peter the most and what is different from that Peter and then this Peter now is that like the one thing that isn't in these books is his for example, he runs into Joy at the Bugle and he's not immediately just thinking about having sex with her.
Mm-hmm.
Now that he's
Would he
married,
normally?
Yeah, if he wasn't married, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
If he walked by any woman, he would just reminisce in his head about how he would ruin that relationship with that woman because I picked Felicia over them, or I am thinking about Mary Jane, or how I missed an opportunity because this woman is married to my best friend. Like,
all while he's dating somebody else too.
Exactly.
Okay.
I find
it's strange.
and it happened all the time, despite, him being Spider-Man and him being Peter Parker. Now, they kind of wrapped that up, which I think has been cleaning up these stories for me. Ever since he's been married, I don't have to think about having to be burdened with those kinds of Peter thoughts.
Where he's constantly pining for somebody else.
Yeah, or like, talking about Felicia even though she hasn't been in the book for like years.
One of his one of his friends, his close allies, dies, and he doesn't get sad until he finds out that in her diary that she had a crush on Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, Jean DeWolf, who's in the next story.
DeWolf,
Oh,
so like
okay.
it's like he doesn't react at all when he finds out she dies, but he's like reading her diary and how she had a crush on Spider-Man. He's like, no, this is tragic. I'm like, are you kidding me?
No, he reacted. Yeah. Remember, he said
"I'm nuts."
No, it's crud.
Crud.
It's crud.
A crud. Okay.
Crud.
Yeah. The captain of the police is dead. Crud.
Darn. He reacted in the way that you would expect him to react. Now we don't have to. His story lines aren't burdened by that anymore. They're just burdened by, boy, I don't make enough money. I don't make as much money as my wife. But I'm still Spider-Man. Like, was that the answer this whole time? I don't know. But it wasn't the answer to making these stories any better. He's still doing like the same thing. Like, how long is he going to be camera on belt looking for photos for the Daily Bugle? Like, sooner or later the Daily Bugle is gonna be like, okay.
Well, that happens. I think it's next issue, right? Joe Robertson says maybe you should get another job.
Yeah,
it's this issue. He says
or is
that.
it this issue?
Yeah,
it's this issue. Yeah,
and it's like, I don't know. There's something I can't reconcile with these that I like don't hate, but maybe it's like what Eric said. It's more, it's a little more simple than the other stories used to be, and it's because like it's pared down, or like you said about Alex Saviuk, it's geared towards a younger
Kids.
audience, or it's like a nostalgia feeling for Spider-Man, which, fine, okay, but I don't know.
Well, I think that also we have Gerry Conway back after like 10 years. We have David Michelinie taking over Amazing, and we have, like someone pointed out, we have 2 cover tributes, at least 2, maybe more. So maybe this is just the order of the day with Jim Salicrup is, let's make this more like the 60s, right? More of a throwback, more like almost like an Archie comic type thing. So, but anyway, that could be it. But anyway, Lex Luthor, we want to hear what you have to say. Wait, Josh, did you have something else?
No,
Bex?
no, good.
Okay.
You sure? You can go.
No,
Because
no,
I'm
it's
going to be a while.
No, go ahead.
You should go first. And because, like, you're not going to want to come in here after me.
Oh, okay.
So normally when I do the recaps, I do some commentary, I make fun of some stuff. I really didn't do that this time because I really liked this one.
There you go.
This one was my favorite one in a long time.
Yeah.
Actually. And I think it's just for some very simple reasons where to me, the whole issue, it feels like Peter's growing up. And like, he starts off, he's like, I've been sad about my web shooters. You know what? Went out there, fixed them, brand new. Also, show off my abs a little bit when I'm talking about my web shooters.
Little jelly packs.
Thank you. Again, I think I said this last week. They're starting to draw Peter real sexy, and I'm sexy DILF Peter Parker. Let's go. So yeah, and I love that they include the wedding ring in all of these images too. I'm obsessed.
I did.
He wears it
that.
under the Spidey suit. That's so cute. Oh my god, I was like fangirling so hard. I was like, oh my god, he wears it under his suit. That's like probably not. You like go get to lose it, but also that's so sweet. But yeah, so and then the whole thing with Ant-Man and everything like that. Even like the thing with Joy Mercado, like Jolie was saying, he's just like, oh, there's Joy, instead of like, damn, there's Joy. Like, it's not like that. And Robbie's like, you know what? Maybe this job isn't for you. And Peter has been talking about how he wants to go back into science and go back and do something like that. So maybe he's starting to realize, you know what? I need something more stable. And yes, Mary Jane makes a lot of money. And maybe I don't need to be worried about money, but what do I want to do? Like when I'm not Spider-Man? Like what does Peter Parker want to do? And I feel like even with all of his encounters in this issue, like he beats up the goons at the Rich People's Club, and they're like just shitting all over him. He's like, all right, whatever. Well, none of you are dead, so bye. And then with the whole Doc Ock fight, he loses on purpose, and his ego is crushed. But he doesn't. He's like, you know what? Everyone thinks I'm a loser, but I know I'm not. And like that's growth. That's maturity. You get that soda, and you sit on your couch without your shirt on, Peter Parker. I just thought it was very simple and sweet. I just. Even the moment with Mary Jane, it didn't bother me. I like that, like, he's been moping all day and then a phone call from his wife, and he's like, oh, wait, my beautiful, loving wife who supports me in all of my weird, creepy endeavors. Forgot, totally. And then he just, like, perks back up. I love that. The Doc Ock stuff is weaker than that. Definitely. I will say, your nervosities and your fears don't snap out of that by recreating
Your
the trauma and then just coming out on top. Like, you don't come from a broken home and then your therapist's like, well, let's role play this. I'll be your dad, you be you, punch me right in the face, and then you're cured. But it's almost like
if only
Doc Ock, it doesn't matter that Doc Ock is here. He's just like catalyst for Peter to publicly get his ass kicked, but be okay with it. But be okay with these rich people thinking he's a menace, but being okay with the fact that nobody appreciates him, but he's doing good and he knows that. I like that. I just, this is my wholesome boy Peter Parker, and I love him. Also, keep your shirt off.
Agreed.
he's got like a
8 out of 8 packs.
big bad Russian ballet vibe going on in the last page, and I'm here.
I'm in.
Yes. Because there's a comic that just came out this week actually, where it's Black Cat Mary Jane, and they it's really good. Everyone should read it. It's actually a fantastic interpretation of the loves of Peter Parker. But in it, they talk about, they're like, how does Peter keep getting catches like us? And it's like, well, this last page. Look at him. He's a hunk. If he wasn't so smart, Peter Parker would be a himbo for sure. But he's way too smart for that. So he's just a hunk. No, what's a smart, sexy man? There's gotta be something, right? Hunk is a stupid, sexy man.
Yeah, I don't know.
And a himbo is a stupid, nice, sexy man.
I thought, no, but a himbo is a male version of a bimbo, which is someone who sleeps with a lot of women, isn't it?
No, on the internet, a himbo is a hunky man who is very dumb, but very, very sweet. And very attractive.
Oh, okay, it says it here. Okay, yeah, I guess a bit. You're right.
It says it here.
No. But here's the thing. You're right. A bimbo is not a slut. A bimbo is just a dumb,
dippy,
a dippy, attractive woman.
She's dumb. Yes. She's attractive, but she's also nice.
Yes, and a himbo is okay. I gotcha.
Just the male version of that.
Okay.
But yeah, Peter's too smart to be a himbo.
True.
So
what? So we're trying to find a word for him then?
Yeah, and I know there is a word. There's like a Venn diagram about it somewhere on Tumblr. It's all very scientific. It's like you can be smart, you can be dumb, you can be hot, and you can be nice. And if you're all of them, then you're a himbo. But sometimes you're just two of the things. So Peter is hot and nice, but he's not dumb.
No. No, he's hot and smart. Anyway.
where the two circles converge, it just says Paul Rudd.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Where all circles converge. Anyway, okay. Enough about Paul Rudd. Okay, so...
Anyway.
Here's the thing is, this issue, we should point out, again, written by David Michelinie, different writer than the other two. I cannot say anything bad about David Michelinie, because, he wrote amazing. Erica, you talk about Amazing. Well, he started writing Amazing a few issues ago, and he's going to write it for another, 5-ish years, so he'll be around for a while. He also, at the same time, was writing Iron Man. He wrote the infamous Demon in the Bottle era of Iron Man. So if you're ever going to read Iron Man, you start with David Michelinie. He's an unsung hero of the Bronze Age. He's so good. Erica's like, let me write that down. Yeah, I'm going to order that on Amazon tonight. No, just kidding.
Send me a link.
All right. We'll figure it out. We'll arrange it.
Okay.
But I definitely like this issue. I guess I also know what's coming, and so it's kind of a weak start because I don't like the way that they're portraying Dr. Octopus. But again, this just feels like a classic issue of Spider-Man with Aunt May and what's her name? Aunt Anna. Anna, bursting into the bathroom and all that fun stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And the stuff at the Daily Bugle. Even the scene where Ben Robinson, or whatever the hell, how come I can't remember his name?
Robbie Robertson.
Robbie Robertson, Ben Robertson, Joe Robertson. That's his name, Joe Robertson. It's actually Joe, but his nickname's Robbie. But anyway, when he's like, Peter, you seem to have difficulty being a freelancer. Maybe you should consider some other line of work. That is a gut punch, But I just love the fact that David Michelinie just slips that in there just to turn Peter's world upside down. And, just even if it's going to give him just a temporary few months worth of storylines, I think it's a really simple, effective way to do it. So I thought that was really cool. I don't know. So yeah, for me, I definitely know what you're saying, Erica. This is definitely easier to jump in to than the issue of Web we just read, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I guess...
For someone that doesn't, yep.
Right. Last question. Recommendations. I recommend it. Erica, do you recommend it?
Yes, I do.
Awesome. Joshua Mervell?
I think I would recommend this one. I'm not a big fan of the Doc Ock stuff and the fact that he just gets over his problem, and we don't even really get to explore his problem really and his fear of Spider-Man. But I like that we're seeing Peter kind of trying to get over all of this stuff and then finally giving in. That's just who Peter Parker is. He's kind of always gonna lose. So even to win sometimes, you literally have to lose. So it's kind of a nice parallel to Peter Parker as a character. So I would recommend this one.
Awesome. G.I. Jolie?
I recommend this is the first issue of where we find out. I'm just noticing this. Has the black costume always been a two-piece?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I think
I think that they're all 1/2 pieces.
Okay.
Yeah, they are whatever the plot needs them to be.
Yeah, I feel like it's one piece, but it's got like a cut in the middle so he can lift up. That's kind of what it seems like.
It's got a cut in the middle so he can hang out shirtless.
Yeah, because he does. I remember in like the old suit, he hangs out with just like the Spidey bottoms on a lot.
But then, like, when he grabs his costume, it's usually like one piece.
One piece.
Which is strange. Mm-hmm. Maybe it buttons together or something.
Yeah. Yeah, like everyone else is saying, the Doc Ock stuff is it's weaker, it's a little problematic, and could use some refinement, but the rest of it's great.
Okay. Lex Luthor?
Sorry, I literally started reading the next ones, and I totally forgot that we were so close to Amazing 300.
Yeah. Do you recommend this one?
Yeah, no, this is great. I didn't even realize it was 297. I was like, oh yeah, Peter learns to be an adult right before everything goes down. So that's cool. Good for him. Yeah, read this. Like I said, 6 out of 6 pack. Right?
All right.
I like it.
Okay. So now we're going to jump to Spectacular Spider-Man 135. And I apologize, Erica. This is part 2 of a 3-part story. But I hope you could follow along anyway. So this is the return of the Sin Eater in the last issue, which we get a quick recap of on page 2 and 3. We find out that basically in the past, Spider-Man had beat the crap out of the Sin Eater and therefore left Stan Carter as a stuttering, limping, person. Okay. And so he feels guilty about that. And then at the same time, Electro took advantage of the fact that Peter was not feeling confident and figured out that Spider-Man's powers work through static electricity, which again, as a kid, Spider-Man had been around for 25 years and you're like, wow, it's so cool that like they're still exploring his powers and this villain figured something out, blah, blah, blah. So I thought it was really cool. But anyway, so Spider-Man's down for the count. The crowd is turning on him, but some of the people in the crowd defend him. And then but Stan Carter comes to step in between Spider-Man and the rest of the crowd and actually pulls out what seems to be a gun to scare everyone away, but turns out it's actually just a toy gun, right? But it still managed to scare the crowd away. So then Spider-Man manages to get away. The cops come and arrest Stan Carter. But funny enough, none of the people who saw what happened will testify to the police. They won't give any information. Spider-Man comes home through his... what is that called? Not sunroof, but... Skylight again. In his one-piece Spider-Man suit. Takes a shower, and then Mary Jane, for once, is actually in the story. Tries to figure out what's wrong with Peter. And he talks about how he has seen Stan Carter, and Stan Carter has, completely changed because of the way Spider-Man injured him. But he's like, I feel guilty about it, but I don't want to feel guilty, and that makes me feel even worse. And then MJ says, that's why I love you so much. You're more screwed up than I am. So then we cut over to Stan Carter, who's being, kind of not arrested, but whatever that's called, like processed in the cop station. And then we see his imaginary friend, the Sin Eater, standing next to him, talking to him. And again, I love that whole split personality thing about him talking to himself. I think it's so cool. And there's a great sequence where Stan Carter talks about how, I need this gun for protection. Lots of people would like a piece of me, including, I imagine, some, cops in this room. And we see a shot of all the police officers in the room staring at him because they know that he's a homicidal maniac, right? So it's pretty cool. Then basically, Stan Carter's lawyer/publicist comes in, gets him out of the police station, sends him home in a cab. And then we cut over to a dream sequence where Peter Parker is having a nightmare about fighting Electro and he's losing again. And then he wakes up in a classic Sal Buscema pose, screaming in his bed. And then, of course, Mary Jane tries to comfort him or whatever. And then we cut back over to Stan Carter, and we get this cool montage sequence of him trying to get a job and him being turned down everywhere he goes. police station, Wells Fargo, I guess another bank, somewhere else. Finally, he ends up at a fast food place, can't get a job there, right? So then we have his lawyer coming back in, trying to kind of like comfort him, and he's like talking to him, and then he's like, he's talking about a book deal that he's got for him. He's like, all right, well, I got you booked on some talk shows to talk about the book. Do you want someone to write it with you, a ghost? And he's like, no, I have a ghost already. And we see Sin Eater standing in the background. Oh, it's so cool. Then anyway, so the next sequence is a little bit awkward because it depends on, suspending disbelief about how like time works. But basically, Electro is at home watching a live. Yeah. Electro is at home watching live TV, and we see this talk show. And then on the talk show, one of Mary Jane is at the studio, and someone goes out and she's talking about I don't even know what. But then
it's the Regis Philbin show.
Oh, okay. Is it? Okay.
And she's like the designer of the clothes.
Okay. But then, so at home, what's his name? Electro's watching. Then Stan Carter is a surprise guest, and he comes out, and Electro's watching the TV. He's like, what the? Oh, and Peter's also watching from the studio. So he dresses up as Spider-Man, swings out. Electro sees this, and then quickly, skates down the subway line to the studio to get there to confront Spider-Man. Meanwhile, we cut back to 45 minutes later, I guess, and Spider-Man is still talking to him. But no, it's like a minute later. Spider-Man is still talking to Stan Carter, and he's like trying to confront him about who he is and what he's done and blah, blah, blah. And then he brings up Jean DeWolf, who we mentioned last time. So Erica, just so you know, in a previous story, Stan Carter as the Sin Eater murdered Jean DeWolf. And Spider-Man said, what did he say, Becca? Crud. That was his reaction. Crud. And so then Spider-Man's like, all those people you killed, and Jean, and then Stan Carter jumps up. Don't talk to me about Jean. We were lovers, blast it. We were lovers. Now, help me out, Josh. Is this the first time we found out they're lovers? I don't think we knew that before, did we?
I don't think so.
No. So it's a little twist, folks. Little twist. So we find out they were lovers. So now Spider-Man feels guilty again. He's like, okay, well, fine. I'm going to take off. But then all of a sudden, who's there but Electro in his secret identity of Max Dillon? And basically, he's trying to psych out Spidey. He's like, come on. He's trying to start a fight with him. But Spider-Man's like, what do I do? With all this electrical equipment, someone might be injured. Someone in the crowd, MJ, anybody. And he's like, what'll happen? He's like, and he basically, again, he chokes, he freezes. And then Electro's like, I knew it. You won't fight if you don't think you can win. Know what your problem is? And then he spits on him and says, you just don't got the juice. And then he walks away. And it's awesome, and I love it. Erica, tell me, what did you think of this issue? What do you think?
Okay, once you start explaining it, it's a little bit better. I had a hard time. This was my least favorite because I had no idea what was going on. I did not know who the Sin Eater was. And so was that his alter ego?
Yeah,
or was he actually him in costume?
Yeah, like Stan Carter, when he puts on the green mask, he is the Sin Eater, but now because he's been beat up and injured, he's developed like a multiple personality where he's talking to himself, but the Sin Eater is him. Yeah.
I figured it was him, but I wasn't sure why he was not coming out as that. It was just like his imaginary friend kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Also, the police all know him because he killed a bunch of people, not because he was a cop?
He was a cop.
He was a cop.
Eventually killed a bunch of people, yeah.
Okay.
And Jean DeWolf was the captain of the police, too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they
extra hate him.
Okay. So there was a lot I didn't understand, but the Electro guy was pretty crazy. Like, I like the part where he's sitting there eating his breakfast of sugar rings and donuts, and his costume's just laying on the bed, and he's got like a really cheap TV. I don't know. I just found that entertaining. And when he flips out and his stuff all goes all over the place and he goes sliding down the rail, I'm like, I don't know how that works, but maybe that was why he got there so fast, because he can, because he used electricity to make himself go faster?
I guess he can go the speed of electricity, which is like the speed of light, so I guess it was quick.
So I can't say that I mean, I was confused mostly by this, but it was my least favorite of the three. So I can't comment much else on it because I had no idea what was going on. Oh, and then what's the thing when he spits? Is his spit electrical? Because it hisses?
Possibly.
And it's like burning a hole in the floor next to him? Or
I think it's electrified, yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I was confused. But it was fine. But I was confused.
Okay. Joshua Mervell, what'd you think of this one?
I don't feel bad for Stan at all. Like, I am not sympathetic for Sin Eater. I think that's what they're trying to make me feel, but it's not until after he gets beat up by Spider-Man that he gets brain damage, and this, like, his ghost of his past self is there to haunt him. There's no clue, and I don't think that they're trying to tell us that he's always had this, and it was like this other personality telling him to kill. It seems like the ghost is what is the man he used to be. Correct? Or am I maybe misinterpreting that?
I think the idea is that he is Stan Carter and the ghost is Sin Eater, so it's almost like he's not guilty of Sin Eater's crimes. That's how I take it, right?
I feel like that's what they want us to feel, but I don't think that when he was Sin Eater doing all of this stuff, that was the case. I think Stan and Sin Eater were one and the same.
Sure.
And it wasn't until the brain damage where they had separated, and it feels like he's like fighting his own like inner conflict, and it's like, so like it really kind of feels like he's blaming somebody else for the things that he did, and he's not actually like taking accountability for it. Just, and then like Spider-Man confronting him and saying like, you killed Jean, and he's like, you don't think I feel bad about killing Jean? I loved her. It's like, well, you still killed her. Like, that doesn't change the fact that you did these awful things, right? And it doesn't really feel like he's paid for that. Like, I know he's badly hurt, but he's like walking around as if he should be a free man, and it doesn't feel like he should be. Like, maybe some therapy would help. Maybe some, some like actual medical help. Might be better than going onto a talk show to talk about this.
Or writing a book about it.
It's ridiculous.
Named after the woman he killed. So, because I don't know anything that's happened, why did he kill her? Did he just kill like a whole bunch of people and she was collateral damage? Or
no,
he
targeted
killed
her.
perceived people who were sinners in his eyes.
Oh, okay. And she was one? Even though
I guess
she was his lover?
Yeah. Also, well, so the reason he becomes Sin Eater, I think they don't really mention in this, but he worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. and they drugged him up with some crappy super soldier serum and it drove him crazy.
Oh, okay.
So then
he got all Jesus
people.
Freaky.
Yeah. So it's like maybe this is the Stan that was before.
Right.
He was the Sin Eater.
Went crazy. I don't. There's a lot of air quotes for a audio podcast I'm doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I was like, but still, I don't. I'm with Josh. Fuck him.
Yeah. It's just they're treating once again in these comics mental health as it's not actually like it's not actually like this. They do it a lot where they just, if the character's inconsistent, all of a sudden, they have schizophrenia, let's write them out of the comic, or to try and make this this character that they've built up to be this mass murderer now all of a sudden sympathetic. They're giving him brain damage and they're saying that he has like multiple personalities and it's not his fault. And it really feels like they're not painting those sorts of mental problems in a good light, and they're using it as like a plot device
to excuse
shitty
activity,
behavior.
Bad behavior.
Murder, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
let me reiterate, like I said, I think it was last week, that the guy who decapitated a guy on a Greyhound bus and ate his flesh is now free.
Why do we gotta keep talking about this guy? I forgot.
Okay, anyway. G.I. Jolie, what'd you think of this issue?
Aside from that, I'm still, as a continuation of the original story, it's fine. Again, we're doing like time warp gymnastics here, with the whole going on a talk show, talking about my problems thing. It seems like a really weird jump for this guy who Spider-Man just found out he crippled, just unimaginably. So we're dealing with with that guilt in Peter's storyline from the last issue, and instead of sort of dealing with how Peter would handle that, we're jumping into new action where they've put him in a scenario, like a redemption scenario, where he stands between him and civilians that are gonna tear Spider-Man apart. It's asking a lot of the reader to believe what's happening would happen in real life. It just seems ridiculous that these things, like, okay, these things are happening. I find them a little far-fetched. Does it make it a good story? It makes it an okay story, but like it doesn't make it a great story. I just don't know where they're gonna. This is 3 parts. What's the third act gonna look like? Because we still haven't resolved anything from the first act. We've introduced all kinds of new weird shit in the second act, and like, which also includes a redemption arc and a revelation for the Sin Eater, who is introduced to us as he's returned as a villain. So in my mind, I'm preparing, okay, yeah, this guy killed Jean DeWolf, so he's going to be the main baddie. And they're painting him to not be it. You know what I mean? Like, we're back to exhausting Spider-Man stuff, and it's just like a lot. I'm currently tired in real life, and now I'm tired reading this book.
Well, I think this one was by far the best of the bunch.
Yeah. Like,
easily the best. I don't know. I don't have anything bad to say about it. I also know how the story ends. That might help, but I don't know. There's not really much to say about it, but I loved every minute of it. I also love the art, which is the only book this month not drawn by Alex Saviuk. This is by Sal Buscema. For the first time on Spider-Man inking himself with his new style, influenced by Bill Sienkiewicz. So yeah. Huh?
Speaking of Bill Sienkiewicz, cute Easter egg.
Yes, that little joke. Did you guys notice it amazing when Spider-Man was holding up the bad guy had the painting, and the art curator said, "Be careful, that's a Sienkiewicz," but it was spelled phonetically. That's a reference to Bill Sienkiewicz.
I didn't know that.
Who did
because I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, well, no,
No,
he did the covers to amazing the Spider-Man story a couple weeks ago. Life in the Mad Dog Ward. But anyway, so yeah, this issue, yes,
Those are pros. That's why you're experts on this stuff. I'm not.
Well, look how far it's gotten us in our careers. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, I love this issue. This is the only one that feels like an organic story. Amazing felt a little bit forced, and Web felt convoluted with too many subplots, but this one was the only one that felt to me like a cohesive whole. And obviously it's part 2 of a 3-part story, which I have no problem with because I know what happens in part 3 and I love it. So yeah, I give this one a big Rico. That's short for recommendation. Erica,
okay.
what do you think? Do you recommend this one? Oh, Erica, before we jump to that, what do you think of the art in this one?
I did like the art in this one as well. Again, I don't know tons about it, but I could get behind it. It was clear. It told a lot to the story.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's talk
I can get behind it.
Yeah, let's talk about the art briefly. Josh, what do you think of the art in this one?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Solid. It definitely fits the tone of the story. The scan that we got is pretty rough. But
like it's the original newsprint. Yeah.
But no, it's really, really good. I noticed this artist also Buscema in this issue. It almost feels like he is drawing Spidey's face a little bit like pointier with his nose. Like it feels like he has a mask over his face.
Good point.
Where normally it's like very round and it's like that, like cartoonishly on his face.
Yeah,
and that's kind of, I think, abnormal for Sal Buscema. I don't. Maybe I'm just noticing that now, but normally in his art, I don't really notice the shape of Spidey's face different.
It could be other inkers smooth that out, but because he's inking himself, he exaggerated that
possibly,
feature.
yeah.
Could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bex,
but even in the sorry, real quick. Even in the shading, you can actually like see the
shadow,
the lines of his nose and everything. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Bex.
Bex, what'd you think of the art?
Oh, I don't even think I reviewed this one, to be honest.
Oh, you didn't review it? What? I'm sorry.
Did I? I don't remember saying anything about it.
Okay,
but maybe
she
that's
did not.
Well, Josh, you can take it from here. Okay, go ahead.
I was
All
like,
right. Thank you guys so much.
This always
Did I
happens.
talk
I'm
about
sorry,
this?
Becca. I always forget about Becca.
And sometimes I'm like so gaslit. I'm like, did I talk about it already? I don't remember.
Okay, what'd you think of this
Whatever.
one? Lex Luthor, full review.
All of it.
Yeah,
art,
sure.
everything.
Yes.
Go.
I liked it. It was good. I like the comic book. I like the pictures and the colors and the people in the book.
Tell us why did you like it?
Because I like Spider-Man. No. I liked everything except for the Stan Carter stuff. Just to be quick, I like the Electro stuff. I think it's funny. He lives in a little apartment. He has sugar breakfast cereal, and I don't understand why he considers it a win that Spider-Man doesn't want to fight him. He's like, haha, coward, and Spider-Man's like, all right, cool, I guess. I love the Peter and Mary Jane stuff. I love Mary Jane in this. I love that Peter comes in and he's like in the shower and she's like gonna surprise him in the shower or whatever, and he like comes out, he says nothing's wrong, and she's like, all right, like he's being extra mopey, and then they actually have a communicative conversation about why he's upset and they talk about their feelings. Love that growth. we love a man who can actually talk about his feelings. I refuse to believe that Mary Jane's bed wouldn't have a headboard. And no art on the walls. Like, I understand maybe you don't want to draw it, but too bad. There's no way Mary Jane Watson is going to sleep with a man whose bed doesn't have a frame. Excuse me. Absolutely not. And like it's on the floor even? Like,
wait,
no.
Becca, you're describing my actual bed. Hold on. Anyway.
Oh, that's the couch.
No, that's their bed. No, she skipped ahead.
Yeah.
To page 13.
Yeah, because she's putting the calamine lotion
there's
on him.
no bed
Remember, he's like
frame and
having
it's
his
on the
nightmare.
floor.
Yeah,
Just
it's
like my
Maybe
bed.
it's like a box frame,
Yeah,
like on the floor, and like
'cause
that's the style.
It looks like they have like drawers on
Early
the bottom
IKEA,
part,
maybe.
so it looks like maybe it's supposed to be a stylish thing, but it really
the platform
does.
bed.
Yeah, it really does look like the box and the box spring and mattress are just like on the floor.
Yeah, and no, I don't feel bad that Stan can't get a job.
No.
He killed a woman and served no time for it. He killed a lot of people and served no time for it. I don't care that he was lovers with Jean DeWolf, actually, because she's dead, so why does it matter? I love that everyone around Mary Jane comments on how hot she is. Like it internal monologue me, that's how everyone reacts when I'm walking down the road. Every man who looks at me is thinking about how pretty I am. Like, did Mary Jane write this? I think it's so funny that the cameraman's like, she's so hot, but she's married. And even Electra's like, wow, she's so hot. Literally everyone is just baffled by how beautiful Mary Jane is, and good, they should be. And then Peter still is angry about his problems, even though his wife is perfect. She's supportive and breathtaking and everything that you would want, but whatever.
Yeah.
Be angsty, I guess. You know, I don't care that Sin Eater is writing a book. I think that's dumb. And he gave up on that really easily. He's like, I don't want to make money off my crimes. And the guy's like, well, maybe you could, though. And he's like, okay, I'll do that.
He's all right.
Well, O.J. Simpson did it, right? I mean...
So Sin Eater's going to write If I Did It, and everyone's like, but we know you did it. No.
Yeah, are you trying to say O.J. Simpson is a good guy, or...
No, I'm saying...
Yeah, what is the comparison?
Well, the comparison
the
is
book deal?
He killed people, he wrote a book about it. Sin Eater killed people, he's writing a book about it, right?
And we don't like... But the difference is the writers are trying to make us feel bad for O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
That's why we have a problem with the Sin Eater.
You were not in St. Clair College in 1996 when the verdict of not guilty was read.
Josh wasn't anywhere in 1996.
Wait.
Listen.
When the verdict was read, when the verdict
in 96, I was born in 96.
When the verdict
oh my
was read,
God.
I was born the year later.
When the verdict was read, and 1,000 people in the hangar cheered because a man who murdered his wife and cut her head off got off innocent. They cheered. So this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, but that's because it's sports.
And they're also now all in the truck convoy of their own church. So
no, stop. Okay. We don't get political here on the Spider-Cast ever.
Stop.
You're dating the episode. They're going to know when we recorded it. Yeah. Was that 1996 at St. Clair College?
There you go.
I don't even remember what I was saying. We really went off on a tangent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, fuck Stan Carter.
Mary Jane's
you were all
hot.
mad
Oh
about
wait,
the book.
that's right. The book.
Mary Jane's hot, and fuck Stan Carter. I don't feel bad for him, and I'm glad Peter beat the shit out of him because he literally knocked sense into him.
Too.
He took the crazy part of him and created a separate personality. So even Stan's like, that guy's fucked up.
It's so strange too because I feel like it's such a weird character to make sympathetic because he was brought in to be so unbelievably brutal. Like he was just here to kill and murder as many people as he possibly could. Like that's what his superpower essentially was killing everybody. So it's really strange that he's becoming the sympathetic villain, where if this was Doc Ock, I would feel less weird about him like trying to better himself and reform because he's not just like some dude going around murdering people. Like he usually has some sort of like motive. Like I know he literally just tried to kill all of New York, but it was so like
more cartoony,
and like it's so out of realism that it can be almost forgiven, where this guy is just a flat out murderer, and it really seemed like they based him off of real murderers. So it just there's no redeeming him in my eyes at this point.
What irks me a lot with him is when like he saves Spider-Man and he pulls out a fake gun. It's like, dude, you killed people. You can't do that, man. Yeah. No, like you used to kill people with the shotgun. You don't get to be like, oh, I have to carry this gun for my protection. Yeah, it's just a toy. You're scaring people. People know you kill people. You walking around with the shotgun? Oh my God. Like this guy does not give a shit about anybody else but Stan. Stan only cares about Stan. So fuck Stan.
Yeah, it also just doesn't seem right that people are turning on Spider-Man at that moment. Like, it really feels like the only reason they turn on him is so that he can come in and save Spider-Man. There's no other reason. He's there trying to stop a supervillain. And even if you don't agree with Spider-Man, it was just such a weird moment where this crowd all of a sudden goes around them and they want to beat him up. Like, it's just...
Yep.
strange.
He's like, that guy ruined my car, and it's like Electro's literally trying to kill people.
Yeah,
but my car.
It's a strange moment for like a mob to start attacking Spider-Man.
Well, here's the thing: is I have no sympathy for Stan Carter or any mass murderer, but there are people that do, and I think that I'm assuming is what this story is playing into, is that there are people that try to humanize serial killers and mass murderers and try to explain their actions by, childhood trauma and mental illness and blah, blah, blah. So I think that's what they're going for. I mean, I personally don't have any sympathy for Stan Carter, but I know that some people would,
Yeah, cool motives, still murder.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I also, I understand why Peter would feel bad, because he's a person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he feels bad that he did this to somebody, and that's something that he has to live with. But the only reason it happened to Stan was because of decisions that Stan made, not Spider-Man. So Spider-Man, it really is free, morally is free of everything that happened to Stan, because it only happened because of the choices that Stan chose to make. Right,
well,
so it's...
I know what you're saying, but this kind of brings in the issue of police brutality, because if Spider-Man didn't use his spider strength to beat the shit out of the guy, he could have just been arrested. The cops could have been put on him, put in the back of a police cruiser, and then gone to jail, right? So
didn't he try to do that multiple times in the story, though? And because he has super soldier serum, he was able to keep getting away or whatever, right?
Yeah, arguably. I'm just saying that don't get me wrong. I don't feel sorry for Stan Carter. I'm just saying that I can understand why Peter would feel guilty, because really this guy has a lisp and a limp because of Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, I agree. I understand that him as a person, he feels bad, but I think as a reader, you don't blame Spider-Man for what happened, is what I'm trying to say, and it's all completely on Stan. So to make him sympathetic is really strange. Maybe if the story was different and he's visiting him in jail or something, and he's actually taking responsibility for what happened, I don't know. I love the stuff with Electro, though. That stuff is so good. Him skidding across the rails is so much fun. He's such a good villain,
right?
He's so fun. I don't know if it was intentional, but the fact that he's eating 3 donuts for breakfast and an entire box of cereal is so funny, and it also kind of makes sense. He's burning so much energy from all the electricity. He's just constantly snacking and eating stuff. I think that's so fun. I don't know if that's what they were getting at, but I loved those little moments.
I think it's also go ahead, Becca.
Oh, I was gonna say also he's got a naked lady calendar, and I like that.
Oh yeah, I noticed that. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question. Do we?
And
go ahead.
His little lamp. No, sorry, I'm just looking at his little house. He doesn't have lampshades on his lamp, so he's just
Well, yeah, he's a low class dude, right? That's what they're trying to show, right?
Yeah.
At least he.
Max.
Hey, at least he's got a headboard on his bed. Anyway, Erica.
Yeah.
Did you like this Electro or the Electro in Spider-Man with what's the guy's name?
Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
What? Oh.
Yeah, it's the same
Yeah,
guy.
it's the same character, the blue guy
different,
from
but he's the same guy.
Amazing Spider-Man, yeah.
I don't know that I remember that one very well, so I'm going to say this one's better. I don't remember
hot
that.
take.
I'll have to rewatch it and get back to you on that.
Okay.
Wasn't good.
Which Spider-Man was that in?
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
And who played Spider-Man?
Andrew Garfield.
Oh, no, we never... Yeah, we watched maybe 10 minutes of it and turned it off.
Did you see the most recent Spider-Man?
I think we did.
Because Electro's in that, too.
Huh. Maybe I
Far
haven't
From
then.
Home?
The one that's in theaters right now.
Nope, then I probably haven't.
Erica,
Okay.
I'm with you.
That's not a spoiler. He's in all the promotional material.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not worried about spoilers. Don't worry.
Anyway.
But he's not blue in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think I saw
weird
him
enough,
with Andrew
you're right.
Garfield because Dave and I hated him as Spider-Man.
So did I. But don't
And his hair?
But don't say that in front of Becca.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Or Jolie.
Sorry.
Yeah. Or the rest of the internet right now.
Sorry. We couldn't make it through, so I don't know. I think I saw maybe, but I don't know. Anyway.
It's okay. He kind of redeemed himself. Oh, I can't spoil it. Anyway, okay. Anyway, I won't say anything else, but I guess that wraps up a review of Spectacular Spider-Man 135. I recommend it. Josh, do you recommend it? I'm going to take that as a no. Okay.
No, I don't.
That's
I don't know. I'm
so
conflicted. I really like this stuff with Elektra, but I just don't feel bad for Sin Eater. I didn't like him or the story he was in with when he first shows up in that Sin Eater saga, so I'm not really liking this like sequel series as much either. So I think it's gonna be a no from me.
Okay.
Dog.
Okay. G.I. Jolie.
Be a no from me,
Yeah, it's not great. I don't like what they're doing to Sin Eater at all.
Okay.
I don't like where they seem to be going with this whole like redemption thing, especially since he was so evil and killed someone before, and then they brought him back, and he, it's like they're using plays on his name to create titles, which I thought was like really fun when we reviewed the first issue of this 3-issue arc, and I was like, ooh, I can't wait to see what he does, or whatever. The death of Jean DeWolf really left a mark on Spider-Man, but now it's just like, oh, this is what they're doing.
Synthesis.
Also, right? Ugh, Peter really treats Mary Jane like shit in this one. And I'm like, are we back to this again? She's actually home, and she's taking care of you, and you're like, bitch, get off of me. She's just trying to put Bactine in your wounds. Dumb asshole. Anyway.
I also like seeing that Spider-Man is just like burnt up. Like we're actually seeing him
He's
after
red.
the fallout of a fight, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Bex, have you recommended it?
It's fine. This is like the first time that I'm reading like all these origins of Sin Eater, because I'm more used to like after he. I don't want to spoil anything.
Oh. Don't worry. Say it.
Should I?
If I'm the only one, then yes.
Don't spoil next issue. You
Oh.
can't spoil next issue. You can't.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Okay, yeah, it would literally be next issue.
Okay.
But then, like, more like modern Sin Eater, what happens to him is what I'm more familiar with versus his like origin, and I think they figure him out eventually. Parker, it is rude to interrupt.
He sighs just like me.
It's so funny. He does. He has your exact cadence, and it's adorable. But this Sin Eater stuff, it's I don't like the sympathetic tone. Can't wait for next week.
All right.
I will say, knowing what happens, it makes it better, or does it make it worse? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when everyone reads next week.
Okay. All right. Well, we want to thank Erica for joining us again. Thank you, Erica.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime. Don't worry. We'll figure out the tech stuff for you. It's no big deal.
Okay.
Awesome. Hope you had fun.
I did.
All right. And yes, we'll have you on again. And
Okay, cool.
Josh, you can take it from here.
Yeah, we want to thank Bex and Jolie for joining us, as always. We also want to thank you guys, the listener, for listening to the podcast. It really helps when you leave us a review over on Apple Podcast, or you can drop us a line on Twitter at HCTSpidercast. Let us know what you guys think about the podcast and the issues we're talking about. We want to keep that comics conversation going.
That's right. So until next Monday, see you later.
Okay.